And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to In the Post, presented by Rally Towel Sports. I am Corey, and with me, as always, is Mr. Todd Gotcha. Let's give it up for Todd, everybody.
I've never been clapped into this broadcast before. I'm so honored.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Maybe blush a little bit there. Oh,
I thought you'd really like that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, how you doing tonight, Todd? It's Rally Towel Sports After Dark tonight. In the Post After Dark, a little bit of a later show than normal. I want to give a shout out real quick to Bruce for liking the video.
Brucey boy. Brucey, congratulations for 500 followers on your gaming page, dude. That is fantastic.
You know what we gotta do if that happens. Let's give it up to Bruce. Let's give it up to Bruce, everybody. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Legend.
Bruce jumping in the chat, emphasizing the E in my name. And I appreciate that. And Todd. He's a swell guy. So, how's your day?
It was good, man. It's normal, just your run-of-the-mill Wednesday. How was yours?
Oh, it was great. I got home and I was like, so we decided to make some changes. Josh Wheeler jumping into the chat. Josh, long time no talk. You got to tune in tomorrow for Line to Game, buddy, because we are going to be all up in that Indianapolis Colts booty, but not tonight. But we decided to remodel the hall bath, and I was gonna, make some simple changes: new vanity, new light fixture, this, that, and the other. Take down the old light fixture. Guess what? The hole's too fucking big. I have to go get a little ceiling medallion. And then guess what? Now I can't screw the fucking new light fixture in on that ceiling medallion to make it look good. So it's a whole fucking thing. It's a whole deal. It's a whole deal. But anyway, we're here now. I have a nice cold beverage, which I've earned from my day. And we're gonna keep on trucking along. So
love it.
New streaming platform here on my end, guys. So if you're noticing any sound differences or anything, just jump in the chat. Let us know. We will make those fixes, those changes as needed. But got a decent show for everybody tonight. We got a couple of exciting announcements. Gonna touch on some NBA games that are happening out there. Todd, what did you want to just jump into the announcement right away, or what do you want to? How do we want to go about this tonight?
Yeah, let's just roll right into it. So,
Bruce sharing the stream, appreciate you, brother.
No, before we get into it, I love that I can see all the comments on this. This is great. I'm not I don't have to look back and forth. I got it all right here. My visuals are it's incredible. So
perfect.
Thumbs up on the new platform. But
great. Here's
the deal. March Madness right around the corner. Selection Sunday on my birthday this Sunday. It's a beautiful present. Bruce says he can see my microwave. Don't look over there. Don't look at what's going on in this little corner back here.
That's true. You're not on Zoom. Oh my God.
Yeah. So if
we're gonna get you in trouble.
So if you guys see me streaming from a different room, it's because I'm staying at Bobby's because I'm grounded from my house. That's maybe the thing that happens. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But Selection Sunday, this Sunday, week-long conference tournaments going on. We've already got 7 or 8 teams that have punched their ticket to March Madness. With that being said, Rally Towel Sports in the Post will be hosting a March Madness bracket challenge.
Oh my word! And the crowd goes wild.
Oh, it makes me think. That little yay makes me think of Mac Miller. I don't know what you know
what it does. It does. Yeah, the kids
smoke this blunt outside because it's hot out and we can get high.
Todd. I'm having way too much fun with all this stuff right now.
It's like a kid on Christmas. This is
It really is. I got a new toy and I'm gonna play with it.
been there. Tell your wife she doesn't have to get you anything. You've already satisfied all your needs. So
wow.
Sure you guys are wondering, hey, Rally Tile Sports, you guys always use a charity. You guys are always donating to a charity when you do. We've done the squares, we did pickups, we did all these things, we do all these donations. So who is it? Who are we donating to this time? So Mr. Will Reynolds, who was
Nope. I'm looking for a drum roll. I'm getting all these drums, but it's not happening. Sorry. Did not mean to put too much levity on the situation here. I apologize.
That's okay. So Will Reynolds, who was a special guest going into Super Bowl Sunday, was our greatest donator, our highest donator to the Rally Tile Sports page for Super Bowl Squares. So his request was that we choose the BHV Legacy Foundation based out of Clinton County, Ohio. For those of you that are wondering where Clinton County is, just go east on 71. You'll get there. That's it. You're in there. You're driving through Warren County. Next thing you know, you see a sign that says, "Welcome to Clinton County." And then the next thing you know, you're in Pickaway County. Why do I know that? I made that drive Saturday and Friday, or Friday and Sunday. I know exactly where we're going here. So what is the BHV Legacy Foundation? So their objective is to provide scholarships to students in Clinton County. Last year, they were able to provide 6 scholarships to graduating seniors, 4 of those to 4-year universities, 1 to a 2-year university, and 1 to a vocational school. So I think that's pretty unique to a lot of scholarship foundations, is providing a grant or a scholarship to someone who's going into a vocational program, which is what helps the world run. Everybody needs an HVAC guy or a plumber or a mechanic, Absolutely. What have you. So I love that they're creating an opportunity for people to start that career. Through this, they also provide support to Clinton County law enforcement and emergency services. They participate in community service projects around Clinton County, and then they also provide support to veterans within Clinton County by giving them the opportunity to go to the local VA or just any sort of funding that's necessary to get them acclimated back to the civilian lifestyle. So you will see in the next 24 hours, we will have the bracket challenge posted on the Facebook page, shared by all 3 of us, more than likely to you all. It will be through ESPN. ESPN has, by and large, the best platform for a bracket challenge. I'm just telling you now, if you're not putting Murray State all the way into the Sweet 16, sorry about your luck. Those racers are in fuego, 30-2. They're my mid-major to make a splash in this year's.
I like it. Madness. It's your dark horse. Heard it here first.
Yep.
I appreciate that. And we're gonna have to get more into it, as we've discussed on Rally Tile and in the post that college basketball has been a whirlwind this year of ups and downs. But as you see the rankings start to shake out now as the season comes to an end, it's a lot of the people we thought would be there at the beginning of the season, right? Gonzaga, Arizona, Baylor defending national champion, Auburn, UK, Kansas, Duke, Villanova, Tennessee, Purdue, Providence, probably a little bit of a surprise. Wisconsin.
So the Friars have made a splash this year, especially in a Big East that's been held down by Villanova for the better part of a decade, right? We've been talking about Villanova winning championships, getting to the national championship Sweet 16, Final Four. They've been all over it. We're seeing a ton of those guys from those prime 2016 to 2019 years for Villanova making an impact in the NBA. And now you have a school like Providence who's really not been relevant for the better part of 20 years. consistently making the tournament. Now you're seeing them make a splash this year. So yeah, them and Seton Hall are my two Big East schools. Unfortunately, the Muskies were knocked out tonight by the Butler Bulldogs, 89-82. Good
Oh.
chance that Xavier is going to be looking for a new head coach after this season. Quite a disappointing ending to a hot start for the Musketeers.
Yeah, and my dark horse remains the same. I don't know if you remember somebody that I talked about right when college basketball was getting going.
I believe it's a school from the Mountain West.
It is green and white.
Yeah, Colorado State Rams.
Colorado State Rams breaking into the top 25 this week in the most latest rankings, up to number 23, sitting at a nice 24-4. Colorado State. That's that's who I'm pulling for this year. Now I'm not saying they're going to go win the national championship. I think Gonzaga is a force. Arizona is another one that probably my favorite to win the whole thing would be Arizona at this point. But you can't ever count out Baylor, in my opinion. They're always seemingly hanging around the Final Four. Over the last 3 or 4 years, that's kind of been their calling, right?
Yeah, I think that Baylor, in my opinion, has made.
By the way, quick shout out. I forgot I was going to do this when you stopped about the charity, and I didn't do it. Nick, thank you for liking the video, buddy.
Yeah, Baylor, I think in the last 7 years has made a huge turnaround in their men's basketball program. I think historically we've known them as a women's basketball powerhouse, which they consistently have been for the better part of 25 years. But the men's basketball program has completely flipped the switch and are, like you said, they're a force year in, year out. And so I guess I'll share. You talked about Arizona likely being your favorite. I really like Auburn for the national championship. Auburn's a team that has depth and experience, something that you don't get to say very often in college basketball these days, especially from a Power 5 school. Those usually don't go
depth. What's that?
Depth, yeah, they'll run. They have 9 guys they run on the floor. They're big. They're big for a college basketball team. And they have 2 top 10 prospects that are likely going to be one in the top 5 and one in the top 15 in this year's NBA draft. So I'm really interested to see Auburn and what they can do now that they've kind of gotten that program into full swing, because they've been on the cusp too. They've had some good years, and then they get to the SEC playoffs and they lose to a Tennessee or a Kentucky or an Alabama. But I don't see that happening. They're my favorites to win the SEC tournament, and then they're my favorites to win it all.
Yeah, obviously Tennessee, somebody else that they're going to have to hang with. Arkansas is going to be hanging around there as well. Interestingly enough, Arkansas, Auburn, both coming out of the same side of the bracket, so it should be a little interesting. Getting down to it out there in Atlanta, I believe, where they're going to be having that tournament this weekend.
I'd love to see an Auburn UK rematch, because that was a great game 2 weeks ago. That Kentucky hung on up until the last 2 minutes of that game, and Auburn just was. They were just too physical. Kentucky doesn't quite have the size. They really only have one big man that they consistently run on the floor in Shibwe, and he's a great college basketball player. Plays kind of ironically enough, coming from West Virginia, he plays the Bob Huggins style of basketball where you have to be physical to get on the floor, and that's a big difference from what Calipari traditionally brings into that program. So I'm really interested to see that rematch and see what Kentucky can do as well, as a Kentucky basketball fan, of course.
Yeah, no bias there at all, for sure. But I think it's we need to decide an amount. We got to decide how much we're gonna be raising here. I think $20 sounds good. Are we thinking more? Or are we thinking less? How do we feel about that?
Yeah, I like $20 per person. I think we follow the same suit. Half goes to charity, the other half goes to the winner. And then if that winner, here's the thing. Here's my commitment. Say I end up winning the tournament. I think the 3 of us just give it all, right? I think that's the fair thing to do.
So another thing, I'm willing to raise some stakes here. I'm willing to say unlimited entries as well. Unlimited. Yeah, unlimited entries, $20 an entry. You
Yeah.
know, if you want to, Corey, we're going to get to your comment here in a second, buddy. Uh, as many brackets as you want, but $20 a pop. Again, 50-50 split. We're going to put all the charity information on the page later tonight or within the next 24 hours. Everything's going to be posted up. $20 entry. We'll show you where you can pay. You know, we've all got electronic fund transferring device and apps and everything like that, so we can get that all taken care of. And I'm gonna go one step further. We're doing winner take all. If we exceed $500 total, so 250 to the charity, 250 to the winner. If we exceed that, we'll do a second place gets a little kick as well.
I like it.
Yeah. Let's let's get this going, man. Let's get it going.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
bracket season, baby.
And again, similar to what we've done, if you decide you want to run 5 brackets and you want to donate $100 and you're the top donator, you're the next to pick the charity of your choice.
Yeah.
We have no biases here on Rally Towel Sports. We just love to give back. So let's
and we're gonna keep the charities. There will be no political things happening. There will be no anything like that. We want to help. We want to help people that need it. That's our goal. So we're going to focus on that.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I think that's relevant to right now.
yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to fundraising. So Corey with a comment here saying Kentucky needs Ty and Wheeler healthy. They don't have them close to 100. It's Auburn's to lose.
Yeah, I think Ty is your factor because he's your scorer when he's 100, right? They have a lot of I think what Kentucky's changed this year that they haven't done in years past is a lot of their 8 or 9. They really run 8 that they run on the floor. 6 of those 8 are situational players, whether they're shooters, defenders, or slashers. I think Shibwe and Ty are your 2 guys that are multifaceted and make they're the dynamics of that roster. Ty's been kind of, I'd say he's been running around 65% for the better part of 2 weeks at this point now, maybe even a little bit longer. But yeah, if he's healthy, he is a bona fide double machine. He's the top. I mean, he's a top 15 pick for the NBA draft after this year. A guy that with his somewhat size and a nice lean but broad frame, he could be an NBA impact guy in a couple of years. He just needs to put a little meat on his bones.
So another thing I wanted to talk about, at the beginning of the season, we had seen a lot of Big Ten schools hanging in that top 25. And I had made the comment that Big Ten basketball historically has been a very powerful conference, right? Historically speaking, they've had a lot of strong programs, whether it be Ohio State, Purdue, Michigan State, obviously, Michigan as of late being in the Final Four recently, Indiana, obviously. There's a ton of Illinois had a great history, has one rather. And so there's a lot of great historically powerful schools when it comes to basketball in the Big Ten. Over the last couple of seasons, I think that has almost been bias in the polls, similar to what other people would call SEC bias when it comes to football polls. My main reason for that is the performance of the Big Ten last year in the tournament, where I believe one team made it out of the first round, maybe 2 teams made it out of the first round. Michigan State and Ohio State both getting bounced in the first round. Ohio State got beat by Blowjob Bobs in the first round, aka Oral Roberts. And I can't recall who Michigan State got beat by, but nonetheless, it was just a god awful performance out of the Big Ten in the first round of the tournament. Heather, thank you for liking the video. Appreciate you dropping by. So this year, though, you're looking at the top 25 rankings. few and far between are the Big Ten. Obviously, with Michigan State playing the way that they've played this season, Ohio State's getting some votes for the top 25, but not many. I mean, it's
Well,
basically
and they
just I was just gonna
yeah.
say it's
So
basically just Purdue, Illinois. I think that's all. Wisconsin. I think that's all I'm seeing right now.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ohio State just actually got knocked out of the top 25 because they just lost to
Hmm.
Michigan.
Yeah.
So they hung around in that bottom 10 for quite some time. They were even up into the top 15 at one point in time.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's a program that kind of gets the early preseason love year in and year out in terms of how they mesh into the top 25, similar to a Michigan State up until really a couple years ago, where Michigan State always somehow ended up in the top 10, and then before you knew it, they were not even in the top 25. That seems to have been the way things have shaken out for Izzo and the Sparties. But yeah, I think the big thing is that there's a lot of diversity in basketball and a lot of diversity. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of programs now in college basketball that are consistently relevant year in and year out that don't require you to sit a year or two. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Similar to like, I don't know, let's call, I don't know, like a Houston, for example. Right. So
Right.
you go to Houston and you could play your freshman year, or you can go to Wisconsin and have to sit a year or two behind some guys that maybe aren't of a similar tier of talent to you, but have been there for a while. And it always seems like, for whatever reason, the Big Ten talent doesn't always play. It always seems to be your upperclassmen are the ones that are hitting the court, unless you are Michigan State, of course, where you have very little upperclassmen.
Yeah. Ashley, thank you for liking
Yeah, I think we're at a point in the Big Ten where you're going to see some coaching changes. Right. I think that, we saw Juwan Howard's antics in Michigan really.
Is that what we're calling that?
Yeah, well, I'll call it antics. That's the politically correct term for that.
Bitch slapping.
That's going to impact. That impacts his coaching career moving forward. Izzo has got to be damn near close to being done. If not after this year, maybe one more year. I think maybe Michigan State gives him his farewell tour.
I think once his son is finished, he'll be done.
Yeah.
His son is playing on the team, so I think once he wraps it up over there, he'll probably be out
he,
of
a
there
sophomore?
As well. That's a good question. I'll look that up. You can continue your thought.
I think he's a sophomore, but I think it's funny you talked about Illinois. I think that's a program that's actually kind of rebounded nicely as the Big Ten's changed. Right, we'll call it a change. But I think Ohio State will see some changes in that program in the next year or two if they can't get out of the first round again in the next couple of years. And that's another part of being in the Big Ten. You can have a winning record year in and year out, but if you're not getting those tournament wins, you don't get to stick around. I think we're going to see that with Tom Crean in Georgia here very, very soon, especially with how abysmal that basketball program is.
So Tom, to bring it back, Tom Izzo's son, Steven Izzo, is a junior right now at Michigan State. So he's on the team as well. Yeah. Corey Ball with a question saying, Buddy Boeheim punch suspension worthy? Question.
It was worthy of one game because that's what he received. It came out probably 15 minutes before the podcast started that he got a 1-game suspension.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I mean,
yeah, they're calling it a ban for punching the dude from Florida State, which
a ban,
a 1-game ban. So he cannot be in the arena for the game. He is not allowed to participate with his team or anything. So
what's the distinction between that and a suspension? Why is that?
So suspension allows you to be a part of the team for a day of game. Allows you to sit on the sidelines, allows you to interact with your teammates. A ban does not give you that opportunity. That's something college basketball has started doing more and more frequently as they suspend players, whether it's for academic or on the court reasons, such as Buddy Boeheim punching the dude square in the gut not quite hard enough to make an impact, but he got his point across.
I mean, you throw a punch, you're gone, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
in theory.
yeah, it's the intent, right? You're throwing a punch, like whether or not it was a drastic assault on a human being or anything like that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
there's different levels of that I think that they'll take into account. But if the intent was to throw a punch and induce harm via that, I think that suspension is pretty warranted. No.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think we saw. It's been a long time since we've had a college basketball player that kind of lashes out like this. I mean, Grayson Allen always comes to mind to me when you think of a guy who was playing college basketball and doing creating behavior like that, childish behavior, because that's really what that is. And Grayson Allen, I believe, only got suspended one time, even though he literally stepped on a dude's nuts and everybody saw it, and he didn't even get suspended for that. So he's getting his now in the NBA. So it's worthwhile.
Yeah. Speaking of the NBA, let's get on into some NBA action going on right now. What I had anticipated to be the game of the night. One of our in the post teams, the Phoenix Suns, heading out to Miami, taking on the Miami Heat right now. And 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Suns, with Devin Booker returning to action tonight. At least Devin Booker returning to action. I knew he was cleared to play. They are currently up 106-80 on the Miami Heat. The Heat were actually favored in this game, -4 being at home, which was kind of surprising, no?
So I think a lot of people are taking this as the NBA final projection.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think, yeah. So the Heat are one of the top teams in the East, record-wise, and I think that we saw a couple years ago their ability to make it to the finals and have the talent around them. And, with a guy like Duncan Robinson who can basically shoot from wherever, and you have the surge of Bam Adebayo making his impact in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I think this is the sign that the Suns are the real deal, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at the stat line. You got Mikal Bridges with 21, Ayton with 19 and 10. Payne with 11 and 10, and then you have Devin Booker, who is a dime and 2 rebounds away from a triple double. So
they always say your first game back after injury is your easiest. The second one's the hardest.
Yeah,
that's always the saying, is that your body's not, when you're coming out, you're fresh, but what your body isn't ready for is that recoup and go again time. So it'll be interesting to see Devin Booker back in his second game, after being cleared and to participate in full activity and everything like that. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Looking at the East, as you mentioned, the only other teams that I really would even, I mean, there's a few other teams actually in the East that I think can make a run at it. The Sixers and the Bulls, I think, and then I think Milwaukee's hanging right in there too. They're only 3 games back on the Heat right now. The East has consistently been down, right? I mean, in comparison to the West. So it comes down to matchups then, about which team can match up best with the Suns, who have a clear runaway lead right now in the West. They're about 10 games away from locking down, the number 1 seed throughout the playoffs, which is big in basketball, getting that number 1 seed, getting home court. Bigger thing is getting up to like a 2 seed. That is, if you can get those top 2 seeds, then it's really big, because once you get down, particularly in the West, once you get down to like 3, 4, 5, 6, it's pretty flip of a coin. You know what I'm saying? Like currently right now, we're going to be slated to get Dallas and Utah in the opening round of the playoffs, and that is going to be electric. That is going to be such a good series. I mean, the teams don't like each other, right? Like, it's pretty clear this season the way they've been interacting, especially a little scuffle that happened a few nights ago with Rudy kind of tossing the ball back at Luka, and Luka takes it and throws it back towards Rudy, and teammate steps in, blocks the ball, and then everybody's holding Luka back, and anyway,
he's so soft too. Luka's so soft.
I would not be scared of Luka at all, especially if I'm Rudy. Like, dude, are you serious right now? Got a clear foot on you, homie.
Right.
So Yeah, it should be good, but I definitely think the Suns are proving that even without Chris Paul, we are the legit. And I think when Chris and Devin Booker were out, I think they demonstrated that they had a lot of depth, and we had some guys on the Suns that were stepping up and leading the way, as currently shown right now. Oh, Devin Booker just took over as the leading scorer. That wasn't the case here just not too long ago. So, but Devin Booker, yeah, 23 points, 7 of 12 from the field, perfect from the stripe. Dropping 5 tonight in his comeback. Um, in other news, we got the Hawks in Milwaukee taking on the Bucks. Bucks up 93-86. And the Lakers have made a surge here in the third quarter to avoid more embarrassment as they are in Houston taking on the Rockets. Now they are only down 1 point here as leading scorer for. Okay, don't look. Don't look. Have you already looked at the stat line? I wanted you to guess who the leading scorer is for the Lakers.
Oh, probably Westbrook, right?
Oh, you did. You got it right. Okay. Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
expect you to have said that, but maybe since I asked the question, that might have led that it was somebody that you might not expect. With Westbrook leading away at 21 points, 7 of 12 from the field. So the Lakers are part of my 4-leg parlay tonight. I have been dipping the toes in the NBA gambling since I can't get my football fix anymore. So I've been doing moneyline bet, moneyline parlays. The Lakers are one of my 4 legs. The other of which are the Mavericks over the Knicks, who are getting just blown out in the first half against the Knicks. Which, what the fuck? Who are the Knicks? Who are the Knicks? The Knicks were up like 10 on the Suns and then lost on a buzzer beater by Cam Johnson at the very end of the game. And then I think they went out and who they go out and beat? They had the Clippers. They had no business going out and beating the Clippers, and they did. They went on the road and beat the Clippers. Then they beat the Kings, which yeah, they should win that game. And now they're in Dallas, up 61-34 on the Mavericks right now at halftime. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. RJ Barrett, leading scorer for the Knicks right now with 14. Luka's got 12 for the Mavs. So
Yeah. So I think the Knicks are probably a score away from getting into the top 6 of the East.
okay.
Julius Randle is a guy that I think that shows that he has the ability to get to the next level as a top tier NBA player with his performance last year in New York. And then of course you have RJ Barrett, who I think is one of the better shooting guards of today's game in the NBA in terms of his ability to take over. But then really after you get after those two guys, their best scorer is Evan Fournier. And Evan Fournier is not a guy that I don't know. I've never been bought into him even when he was in Orlando. So I think that they're just one scorer away from being able to win, at least get into the 500 column and start winning some even better, closer games. Because I think that's their MO, is that they get into close games and they don't have anybody to secure the bag. They just lose it in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I think Knicks fans are pretty used to seeing that. They're used to seeing. I mean, look how they started the season, and you know the city of New York was rioting when the way the Knicks came out of the gate, and then like 2 months ago they're talking about getting the owner out, and they've been talking about that for a while. But
yeah,
it's been a while since they've really been a relevant franchise in competing in the league.
Yeah, it's been since the early 2000s, probably at
Yeah,
the Allen Houston days. That was the last time when the Knicks were really
sure.
in the top parts of the East, competing with the Pacers year in and year out.
Yeah.
Those were your two teams post Jordan that were getting to the NBA finals and taking on either the Spurs or the Lakers every other year, just depending on who could win Game 7 on the Western Conference.
Will Reynolds, thank you for liking the stream, buddy. Will,
What's
we
up, man?
announced, yeah, we announced a charity fundraiser with the March Madness brackets. We're gonna have everything posted within the next 24 hours, and we're excited. Thanks for dropping by tonight. Todd Corey Ball with a comment here for you. He said, Todd, British got to go to a Utah playoff game last year through her company. See what you're missing. LOL, JK.
Well, so Corey's significant other, we were coworkers at CarMax together, and she left the company before I did, and offered me an opportunity to stay in the automotive industry. And your boy is just tapped out on buying cars. I'll make sure processors get into all the Micro Center stores over getting to
Appreciate
a car
your
auction.
service. Yeah, appreciate your service. Rob, jumping in the chat. What's up,
What's
Rob?
up, Rob?
What's good, homie? Hope you're not at work. I hope you're chilling. Will saying, awesome. Looking forward to tossing some brackets in. And yeah, that is part of the deal, guys. Unlimited brackets. As many as you want. $20 a pop. And 50-50 split. That's the way it goes. Corey, thanks for liking the stream. Rob, thanks for liking the stream. Appreciate you guys. If you're feeling really saucy, go ahead and share that stream as well. Let's get some people in here. For In the Post, this is our second episode of In the Post covering NCAA and NBA basketball action. Let's see what else is going on in the league. Any updates here? Final in Miami, Suns 111-90. Again, the Heat were favored by 4 in this one, and the Suns just came out and absolutely took care of business again. I think it really is just showing you get the best team in the West, the best team in the East currently, right? Based on standings. And the West just absolutely blows them out of the water. It's just kind of the way the league has been. The Bulls did win tonight. They beat the Pistons. That was part of my 4-leg parlay that I've got going on tonight. I got Bulls over Pistons, 114-108 in Little Caesars Arena here in Detroit basketball. Speaking of Detroit basketball, the Pistons are in a position right now to do something that not very many people are able to do.
What's that? Let's hear it.
3 high-powered scorers through the draft. I think that Detroit is in a very, very, very good spot right now in terms of their core and where they're going to be next year in the draft, because I'm of the opinion that this upcoming draft class is at least like 7 deep in terms of guys that can affect immediate change on teams that need it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think if you look at the top 15, that's why when we were talking about some of these guys from Auburn and Kentucky, I kind of alleviated some guys heading into that top 15 and some of them falling out, because the first 15 guys that are going to get taken in this draft are going to very likely be starters or 6 men immediately, which you don't really get to say very often, especially in the last 7 or 8 years. It seems like once you get to pick 10 or 11, it seems like the talent seems to shift significantly. But there is a lot of really good talent that's going to come out of this class, and a lot of it is are guys that aren't playing overseas either, which usually makes an impact on when that person's going to become available and when you're going to be able to use them. And really, I don't think we'll see an overseas player until there's a gentleman that plays in New Zealand that'll probably get taken somewhere in the late teens, early 20s. So we will see probably 1 through 20 being either college players, Ignite players, or G League, or college players or Ignite players, or there's a third league that's been created. And there's a couple guys in that league that'll get drafted. It's like a Ball is Life league, because there's professional leagues for everybody now. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what Detroit does, because I think you're right. I think they are a score away from being a plus 500 team as well.
Yeah, I mean, you got Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey are the 2 guys that are really carrying that team from a scoring perspective. I mean, Detroit is going to have an opportunity to get the number 1 overall pick. They're going to be right there, and
they'll be in the lottery.
They will be in the lottery, 100%. Rob with a comment: Bulls are ripping it up lately. Absolutely. Earlier, before you jumped on, Rob, I was making the comment that there's like 2 other teams that I really think can compete with the Heat in order to get that number 1 overall seed. It's the Bulls and it's the Sixers. are the teams that I'm thinking right now can do that. But back to the Pistons, who's the kid out of Gonzaga? Is it Holmgren, the like 7-foot center?
Chet Holmgren.
Holmgren, dude. If you can add like that kind of dynamic, full like 3 through 5 player, and a guy that can hit it from deep, can play big inside, he's defensively sound. If you can add that with the scoring powers of Bay and Cunningham, I mean, the Pistons are they're gonna attract some talent as well, I think.
I don't think Marvin Bagley is a slouch either. I think that he hasn't found his way in the rights of the NBA just yet, but I think something that Detroit lacks is size. I certainly think that they play undersized in the NBA, and you just can't do that right now. The teams that play undersized in the NBA just aren't winning, right?
Right.
It's these teams that are bringing it's these teams that are bringing out 5 guys over 6'6" and playing them for 30 minutes a game. Those are the ones that are winning games, really, with the exception of the Suns. They're the only team that aren't throwing out these huge 5-man flows out there. It's crazy, dude.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say basketball has changed that dynamic so much really in the last 2 years, where you're seeing as these guys have become more athletic and being guards basically at 6'7" when they're in 8th or 9th grade, when they hit that growth spurt. Now you can have your guy that runs your 3 or your 4 is bringing the ball up the floor half the time, and the point guard position in its entirety has completely changed. The point guard's now one of your better scorers most of the time, because they're 6'6", unless you're Russ really or Chris Paul, and he's figured out that he just needs to be the guy that's just dishing dimes. So
and that's kind of always been the conversation around Chris Paul. The conversation around Chris Paul has kind of always been the last true point guard. At least that's kind of the way I've looked at him. So I 100% agree. And we talked about size, and every time we talk about size, I think about the Pacers and the lack of it, right? The lack of size that they're bringing to the table. Well, last night the Pacers did everything they could to win that game against a team that they didn't have any business beating, in my opinion. The Cleveland Cavaliers tied at halftime, hung with it the entire game. And normally what we would be talking about right now, Todd, is how the Pacers lost to size. Darius Garland's 6'1".
Yeah, 45 or 43 or something.
Yeah, career high for Darius Garland, 41 points as the Cavs beat the Pacers last night in Bankers Life, Kroger, St. John Newman Stadium last night. So, but yeah, I mean, it was it's not something you would normally see. I don't know. Did you get a chance to catch any of that last night?
I watched the highlights this morning, and Darius Garland is unique.
He a dog.
Yeah. I was kind of cold on him out of Vanderbilt, just based on how the hell does that guy end up in Vanderbilt, right? Why is that guy playing college basketball in Nashville? Why is he not playing in a top 10 school? But dude, he's special. The way that he's able to move without the ball, and I think that's kind of the lost art of basketball now, is being able to move without the ball and creating your shot without having to handle somebody. Darius Garland does that very well, and 9 times out of 10 being mismatched in size, right? It also doesn't help that Halliburton was guarding Garland, and Halliburton is an awful defender. And also
leading scorer for the Pacers last night, by the way.
Yeah, he is their best scorer.
Yeah,
Tyrese Halliburton, and he plays the new point guard position, right? He's 6'6", but I don't think he handles the ball great. I think he's just a good shooter. So you could run him and Buddy Hield at the same time, and you have 2 guys that can and are willing to shoot from anywhere on the floor. That's the way that the game has shifted. Garland doesn't really play the game that way. Garland is a guy that creates offense and also seems to find a way to make that 12 to 15 shot very easy for him. That's where he kind of lives and dies. He lives on being able to kind of dribble drive to his left primarily. He beat Halliburton to his left a ton last night from watching the highlights. So I'm interested to see Garland's trajectory in the NBA because I think that he could be Cleveland's leading scorer for as long as they're willing to pay him for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and what will really be interesting is Cleveland's ability to draw free agents in the near future. LeBron is a name that gets tossed around a lot when you think about Cleveland. I don't know if I'm the Cavs, man, I don't want any piece of him right now. I don't know. I just feel like if we're already talking about Frank Vogel being out in Los Angeles, look what head coach is like, yeah, I want LeBron.
Right.
There's no head coach that is worth their salt that's saying I want LeBron on my team. Why? Because you're not the coach anymore.
No, you
You're
call
not.
zero shots. Yeah, you're absolutely right. LeBron is he's the GM, he's the coach, he's the captain, right? He's making all the decisions. And yeah, I'm with you. I think that look, Frank Vogel, in my opinion, is a good coach. He's been a good NBA coach. He's caught a couple bad breaks here and there when he's ended up on some teams on their downswing, and now he's in LA and they're losing, and they're not blaming LeBron for losing or Russ for losing. They're blaming Frank Vogel, who literally sits on the sidelines and says absolutely nothing because he has no say in any situational part of the game.
He's a figurehead. He's the Queen of England right now, and as is any coach, as we've seen since LeBron has returned back from Miami to Cleveland. Eric Spoelstra, obviously an effective head coach in Miami. That was not the case, when he went back to Cleveland and then out to Los Angeles. It has been a shuffle of leadership, or as we will call it, leadership at the head coaching position for any team that LeBron James is on. But an update from Houston as the Lakers have clawed their way back to finally take a lead over a team that has no business beating the Lakers roster, at least. The Lakers currently up 108-106. Todd is frozen on my stream right now, so I'm going to bump him out, bring him back in, see if that fixes the problem. There he is. He's back. I got you, baby. Some other updates as the Thunder are taking on the Timberwolves, 91-17. The Timberwolves lead that one in Minneapolis. And the Magic taking on the Pelicans, up 96-84. The Knicks, the lead is slipping away, 67-46 over the Mavericks. Absolutely shocking score nonetheless. Great game going on in San Antonio as the Raptors and Spurs are tied at 71. Earlier tonight, the Celtics took down the Hornets 115-101. As we mentioned earlier, Bulls over the Pistons 114-108. And the Phoenix Suns with a dominating statement performance over the Miami Heat 111-90 as the best of each conferences met there in Miami. And Devin Booker put on a show.
Let's talk about Zion for a second because we ran through the Pelicans score.
Sure, yeah.
And the Pelicans are one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. And we have not seen Zion touch the floor, right? It's been a long time since I've seen Zion suit up and make an impact in an NBA game.
Right.
Or let me phrase it this way. Has he made an impact on an NBA game since he's been drafted?
I think there's been a couple of splash plays. There's been a couple of really good performances, but there's never been that moment. When you look at a guy, same draft class, one pick later, who am I talking about? Ja Morant.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at Ja Morant, like the New Orleans Pelicans hate themselves. Like they haven't tasted dinner in 2 years because they just look over at Memphis and watch Ja Morant just be a dominating force in this league, and they understand that he could have been their franchise player. Instead, the hype around Zion, it was an already foregone conclusion that Zion was going to go number 1 overall. There were a couple of people that were like, I wouldn't take him number 1 overall. I would take Ja Morant. That was coming out. Like people were saying that. But they pushed forward and they took Zion because they needed that, right? Anthony Davis was gone. They needed that guy that was going to be their staple. And Zion had that marketability, all of the flash at Duke that we saw in his one season there. And we've been watching Zion since he was like 15 years old, right? On YouTube, just dominating children.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that the way that I was going to lead this is that Zion was really the first player in the NBA outside of the Ball family where social media really impacted.
Hold on one second, Todd. You went away on me. Yeah, we got audio on you.
Okay.
You can continue.
So I think that Zion is an example of a guy when you look at the NBA and you look at the social media's impact on the NBA as well. Zion's your first guy that we followed on YouTube from what, 8th grade on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him in Spartanburg playing varsity basketball as an 8th grader, and all this footage of this guy who was basically built like a grown man, just
Right.
dominating kids who are a foot shorter than him as a freshman. And I think that the hype was what created his ability to commit to anything away from Zion's talent. I think Zion has talent in his own right because he's big and he's athletic, but I think he's an example of where his lack of discipline rather has caused him to struggle in the NBA. Because
so you talk about lack of discipline. Are you indicating the weight changes and things like that?
So I'm talking about not taking care of your body, right? Because the injuries that he has are based on his size. The thing that Zion has been told consistently coming out of high school, going into Duke, and what Krzyzewski built into Zion was you need to lose weight. You need to be, if you're going to be 6'9" and you want to be 275, that needs to be the leanest 275 that you can be. So when you're changing composition and not losing weight, it's about fueling your body with the right stuff. Right. And then Zion gets to New Orleans, and all of a sudden that 275 turns into 295. And then all of a sudden,
what are those pastry dishes? What are those called?
Beignets.
Beignets.
A lot of crawfish and a lot of beignets have been consumed by Zion. And now Zion weighed in at almost 320 pounds. Right?
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big fella who is not putting in the work to be impactful to his team, and that really sucks.
When I hear that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I'm curious. In terms of the why.
I think I think it's a maturity thing, honestly.
Okay. You know what I honestly think it is? And it sucks to say this because he has the ability. I don't think he wants to play basketball anymore.
Ooh. See, that's an interesting perspective.
Let me clarify that. Let me clarify that real quick. I'm not saying that he's doing this maliciously. I don't think Zion is purposely gaining weight and, putting himself in the position to be injured or perform poorly. I don't think he wants to do it enough. I don't think he wants to do those things where he has to manage his diet and he has to put in that extra time and this, that, or the other. It's all come very naturally to Zion since he has been a genetic freak show in comparison to his peers from the rest of the league or the rest of his peers in high school and in college. That's not the case anymore. No. Everyone in the NBA is a genetic freak show, or they are just technically elite, right? Those are your two options to be successful in the NBA: genetic freak, technically elite. That's it. That's how you do it, right? It's that being said, Zion is now being met with, I am not just going to walk in here and beat people. I have to work. And I don't know that he wants to do that. I don't know that he has the desire to do that. I don't know that he loves basketball enough to do those things. Will with a comment right here saying the good news is that I evidently have a similar weight management plan as an NBA player. That's fantastic. Lots of beignets and crawfish coming out of Will Reynolds.
Yeah, I think that's definitely not out of the possibility, right? You see that a lot from these athletes who are in the spotlight for such a long period of time, and then now you're now, like you said, you're facing the best athletes who match you, and you don't want to have that time. You don't have the mental tenacity or the self want to put the time and the effort in to match that, right, or to get better. So I a perspective of that.
Yeah, Will with a comment is saying Simone Biles drops out of the Olympics. Is there possibly too much pressure for Zion? I don't, are they dating or something? Is that something I missed?
I think he's just saying that Simone Biles, when she dropped out of the Olympics, it was based on she was like having some mental health
Oh,
anxiety
okay,
issues,
okay,
right?
I'm
So
with
then
it now.
his
I
correlation is
thought he was joking still. Like he was on the joke train. See, this is why I get in trouble with text messages. I can't read the semantics here. So, like there are times where I'm like texting with my wife, and then like we'll like see each other shortly after, and she's like, Are you okay? Like, what's the problem?" Like, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" like, like, you seem pissed off. I'm like, that is not accurate. So my bad. Like that happens
oh,
far too regularly.
yeah, I think all that kind of ties in similar to what you're saying, right? Is it's a mental
Yeah.
thing more than anything, and
I would
yeah,
normally try and
who
fix your
knows?
camera right now, Todd, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna
You know,
the way that,
look, I'm watching it on Facebook, and it doesn't look like I'm freezing or anything. Maybe it's just something
oh,
on your end.
okay. Well, that's fantastic then. Yeah, I great. Then I'll stop fucking with it. I'm sorry, Facebook and YouTube, and I think ESPN has picked this up tonight. So I'm sorry, everybody that's tuning in, and
Giggity.
you're wondering why is Corey toggling Todd on and off? It's because he's frozen on my end. So glad to hear that he's alive and well in the metaverse at this point. So
I'm kicking it. I'm kicking it right now, buddy. But
beautiful.
yeah, I think that is a thing that's going to become more relevant as social media continues to make such a large impact on the game and on guys at such a young age. Oh, yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
look
how
at
you.
that. That's a
Yeah,
good candid smile, though.
it was great. It was an absolutely fantastic freeze. It was beautiful.
But
But go ahead.
I think we're, with the introduction of Ball's Life being so impactful to the high school game, and look at like a guy like Mac McClung, right? So Mac McClung was a guy that was playing high school basketball in Virginia, and he's a 6'1" shooting guard that can jump 60 inches. It's unreal what this dude could do with a basketball. Um, he is he gets this huge hype out of high school. He ends up going to Georgetown to play basketball at Georgetown, and that lasts a year, and then he transfers, and then he ends up in Texas Tech, I want to say. Goes there, doesn't like it. Now he's in the G League, and now he is trying to get into the NBA. But my point being that this dude was hyped up as he was going to be the next best thing for basketball, professional basketball, because of what he was able to do on the floor with the size.
Right.
And now we don't even talk about him anymore. And Tyler Harrow was the same way. When Tyler Harrow was in high school in the Milwaukee area, his games were sold out everywhere they went. And it was solely because Ball's Life was always there, and all these high school kids would just talk so much shit to Tyler Harrow during games, and they knew they were going to get on camera, and they knew they were going to get on YouTube and Facebook and all that shit. And Tyler Harrow ate it up, and it got him to Kentucky, right? Because I think if you look at Tyler Harrow's career as a whole, he's a very one-sided player. Now, I think he's a good shooter, and I think his time in the NBA has made him better, because I think his year at Kentucky was completely overhyped. I think he was one of the most overrated players of that draft class, and then the Heat take him in the top 10. And he had a great COVID season, right? That
I was gonna
rookie
say
year,
bubble season was his moment, man.
and he is radio silent now.
Yeah.
Little to no impact on the Heat anymore, and they're still winning, right? So it's not like he was the benefactor in them winning those games when they made it to the NBA Finals that year. But again, social media made this guy into what he is, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that. And now Bronny Jr. is basically the full centerfold of high school basketball. And, you know, he's played with two guys that have been top 10 recruits in the country. And they get less attention than Bronny does. And Bronny is a 3-star high school or a 3-star recruit at his very, very best. And he's going to make it to the NBA. And he probably doesn't. And maybe his game gets better in the next 2 years and he goes to college or he ends up playing the Ignite League, whatever he ends up deciding to do. And maybe his game gets better. But right now, if you look at him, he is solely in the NBA because his dad's LeBron James.
Yeah,
and I think
100%.
that sucks. I think that sucks.
It does, but you know, there's an organization that needs that draw right now, right? Like, okay, let me throw out a scenario. And Will, we're going to get to your question here in just a second. It's a fantastic one, and I'm looking forward to that discussion. And then we're going to get to some score updates after that. But, you know, the Charlotte Hornets. Let me just put that out. The Washington Wizards. The Orlando Magic. Anybody else? The Minnesota Timberwolves. He ain't going to fucking Minnesota.
A-Rod's going to turn that organization around. One way or the other.
Sure.
When he moves them to Las Vegas too.
Or Las Vegas or Seattle, right?
Yeah.
So Charlotte Hornets, Michael Jordan, LeBron, they are some not friends, I won't say, but they are working. They have a working relationship. We'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. Let's say Michael Jordan says, "Yeah, we'll take Bronny in the second round. You need to come to Charlotte. Let's sell some tickets. Let's get some excitement back in this organization for a little bit." And maybe they don't win a championship, but what they might be able to do is secure a couple free agent pieces in that time that they wouldn't have normally gotten. And they're not going to be 1-year deals. Maybe they can secure a decent mid-tier free agent for a 3-year deal. And that allows them to get a little bit more of the building blocks. And that's kind of how I see that going down. Like, I don't see, like, I don't know. I don't see a contender wasting a draft pick on, like, I don't see Golden State taking Bronny. You know what I'm saying? I don't see Phoenix taking Bronny or the Heat. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I see that whole situation playing out.
And you know you're getting LeBron with him, right?
Exactly.
He's made that explicitly clear. He's going wherever Bronny goes, and that's probably it for him after that year. So where do you want LeBron's farewell tour to be?
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Will with a great question here. He says, does it add to the struggle that premier high school players have a new team that for a year before hitting the NBA? So they have to learn a new team scheme before hitting the NBA. That's 3 teams in 3 years, and all of the nuances that come with it. Sounds tough to me. I think it's a great question. Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we've seen since the one and done rule has been implemented into the NBA. I think the timeline of players has changed, right? And what I mean by that is, I think that there's some guys who are getting into the league probably a year or 2 years too late to they've already kind of hit their stride and in terms of their talent, and now they've built, whether it's through coaching or whatever, they've built this persona for themselves that they're greater than coaching, or they're greater than team, right? And they don't need the environment around them to be great,
right?
But I don't think that the high school to one and done to NBA has made as much of an impact as a lot of people make it to be. I agree. It would be challenging to learn 3 offenses in 3 years. But here's the thing. Now you go to high school and then you get into college, and that NIL deal hits in that first year, you're already getting paid, right? So those guys that are going to the Ignite League and playing overseas and doing whatever, like, that's going to that could change very quickly. That the
I
Ignite
think
League can be.
NIL is probably one of the best things that could happen to college basketball in general.
Yeah,
I think it's
I think in basketball as a whole, it's that's the
yeah,
sport that it impacts the most on the
I
men's
agree.
and women's side. That's
Other than like gymnastics, athletes getting deals
yeah,
now and
right,
things like that. That it benefits them obviously as well,
right.
and they're majorly impacted as athletes that had no recognition throughout, and now they're able to generate income off of it. So
Sure. Yeah. I think NIL impacts I mean Barstool did the best thing that they could do and they got on to 3,000 athletes in 24
hmm
hours. It was
yeah,
perfect. And now Dave Portnoy is probably the richest man in sports journalism, as Barstool Sports likes to call themselves.
yeah.
But I don't think that three teams in 3 years thing is going to make as much of an impact anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And the major thing about that and the why behind that is because basketball is not as complex as football. Basketball, there's less space, there's less players, meaning there's less things that you can do to change things up. I think the fundamentals of basketball are what they are. It's passing, it's movement, it's sound defense, and it's rebounding. And obviously, I mean, the ability to score. But once you get to the NBA, you can score. Like everybody in the NBA can score, and they can score really well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why games
That's why they're
break.
in the NBA.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why they're in the NBA, and that's why you see games break 100 almost every single night. That's because
Mm-hmm.
they can score, and you don't get there without it. So just with those fundamentals being what they are, and that's why, like, if you see people that can play basketball, like a pickup game of basketball looks cleaner than like a pickup game of football, right? It's not
Sure.
as sloppy as long as guys know what they're doing. They know how to pass the ball. They know how to move without the ball in their hands, things like that. And so those things are a little bit easier to translate, from league to league as long as you have that core. I think what the issue is they're not getting that core. High school basketball isn't the route any longer. Like it's not like yeah, don't get me wrong. Like you're still seeing guys flex on Friday nights in their high school gyms and stuff like that. But that's not a huge focus in terms of how they're getting to where they're getting when they're playing college ball. It's showboat and it's putting up big numbers in summer league and things like that as well. So
Yeah.
and go ahead.
The amateur athletic, union, whatever, that basketball is impacted the most by that because
Mm,
those AAU tournaments that are played and nationally in the springtime and the summertime are what get guys D1 scholarships.
yeah.
High school basketball has very, 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 very little to do with most of these guys getting to eat to get into college,
hmm
right? AAU is where it's the same for baseball too. Travel baseball and AAU basketball is where you face the best talent because you're not handcuffed to playing with 11 other guys and dealing with the historically wherever you come from, the politics in high school sports are outrageous. That's the one thing that everybody can say that they have in common from wherever they went to high school around the country is that yeah, there's politics. My basketball coach was his cousin's the superintendent, and
Right.
you know the superintendent's son had to make the team, and he was it's the shit like that happens everywhere, right? But in
Yeah.
AAU, you're either asked to being played for this team or you're going through way harder tryouts in AAU. And what I mean by tryouts is they throw you into a tournament and they see if you're going to get your ass kicked or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um,
See how they hang.
that's
There's no hey,
yeah. So
here's the plays we run.
yes,
Yeah, there's
it
none of
is.
that.
It is. Hey, can you play tomorrow? Great. You need to be here at 4:30. We'll give you a jersey, right?
Yep.
And then that's it. And
Yep.
I think Cincinnati has done a less than good job at getting AAU basketball to where it needs to get to get the talent in Cincinnati out of the D2 and smaller D1 schools because there's some good talent that hovers around Cincinnati basketball. I mean, Mueller won the state championship two out of 5 years, and they have three guys in the NBA right now.
Right.
And you would have no idea, right? And
Mm.
they, but there's no good AAU basketball in Cincinnati, and they have to either come up here to Columbus or they
Or go to
have to
Kentucky.
try out. Or they're traveling south, or they're traveling even further west and they're getting into Indiana because Indiana does an exceptional job of creating AAU basketball. And yeah, that's where these guys make their money. Trae Young was found by Oklahoma in an AAU basketball game, and that's why he got one Power 5 offer. Is because he was in the right tournament at the right time and somebody tracked him.
Amazing.
But in high school basketball, you could drop 30 a game, but if you're in Ohio in a Division III school, that means next to nothing. But if you're on Team Ohio in AAU and you're dropping 30 there too, even though you go to a small Christian school in Columbus, now you're somebody, right?
Yeah.
That's where basketball makes
and the why again behind
impact.
that is basketball is like, yeah, you have setups and things like that you're going to try and run and things like that. But it's really just those first 5 seconds once you cross the timeline that you're setting something up. And then from there, it's about reading what the defense does and making plays. And that's really what it boils down to. Like, because you can draw things up all you want. This isn't it's not Y League where you're like, okay, go down, set a screen on the low block, come up, set the pick and roll, and flash on the paint. It's going to be there.
Right.
9 times out of 10, when you're playing that Ham Fair League, it was there every single time. But that's just not how it works when you get to that level. So, yeah, I really appreciate the discussion. That was a great question, Will. I appreciate that. So we're gonna get to some NBA action updates as we are 13 seconds left in Houston. The Lakers and the Rockets are at 120, and I'm almost cracking up laughing just thinking that my parlay could be ruined on that, but it won't be. The Lakers will probably win, but it'll be ruined by the fucking Knicks, man. The Knicks are up 18 on the Mavericks with 10 minutes to go. Now it's 10 minutes to go. It's 10 minutes to go. The Knicks are gonna nick potentially. They could let this slide out, and the Mavericks could hold on to it for me here. But okay, so now we're down six. We got 16. We got 17. Sorry, 17 that the Mavericks are down right now. Update to San Antonio as the Raptors are up on the Spurs 100-88. The Jazz just kicked things off at Vivint Smart Home Arena, and the Jazz are blasting the Trailblazers in the first quarter, 21-8. Let's see who's leading the way for the Jazz, as we got Bojan Bogdanovic dropping 7 right now for the Jazz in the first quarter. Hell of a start for Bojan. Nuggets, last piece of that parlay leg for me. Again, it was a 4-leg parlay where I took the Bulls, I took the Lakers, the Mavericks, and the Nuggets. The Nuggets are up in Sacramento against the Kings, 32-27. About a minute and a half to go left in the first quarter.
Nikola Jokic already has 15 and 6, and there's a minute 50 left in the first quarter. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's see a couple comments rolling in here before I get to some final score updates. The softball player I work on, she was discovered from attorney in Florida. By chance, a college coach had pause in the game he was there for and happened to look over at her game and saw her throw out a player. Now she's playing at Southern Miss on a full ride scholarship.
Yeah, travel sports are that's what gets you to the promised land. It really is. I mean, speaking from personal experience, I played on a high school team that my junior year kept 17 seniors. Just think about that. A baseball roster carries about 19 people, 20 people at the most. I think I had a cumulative total of 3 innings on our varsity team. And when I played in summer, I played in a tournament with over 250 coaches that were there over the course of 5 days. You know how many coaches came to my JV baseball game when we played Lakota West? 0. 0. High school sports do nothing for let me rephrase that. Except for football.
Yeah.
Outside of football and track.
And wrestling.
So let's say of your big sports, because soccer included, you make your money on in soccer on your club team that you play with in the off season. That's where most of these people get their scholarships. Baseball, basketball, soccer, you have to be on a good club team or travel team, whatever you want to call it, for you to get the opportunity to get the right looks. Because if you're not, or if you're not really good at creating film for yourself and spending the time to sending emails to several hundred coaches, you're probably missing out on an opportunity. It almost happened to Mike Trout. If Mike Trout wouldn't have gotten drafted when he did, or played for Bergen Beach, which is one of the top travel programs in the whole entire country. They get 25 of the best people on the East Coast to play on this team, and they play in the best tournaments in the United States and some even into Puerto Rico. One for them. Nobody's going up to South or Northeast New Jersey to watch Mike Trout play baseball in high school, right? You don't. There's not a big following there, but he could play for Bergen Beach, who A-Rod played for, and now all of a sudden you get to play in these tournaments all over the country, and now you're somebody. So, yeah, baseball is the one I think that is impacted the most by situational things like being on the right team, getting you where you need to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got free basketball happening in Houston as the Lakers and the Rockets are headed to overtime.
God, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And the Knicks are up 19 on the Mavericks with 8.5 to go in the fourth. Jazz still pouring it on 25-10 over the Trailblazers. Nuggets 32-27 as the Kings have brought that one back a little bit. Earlier tonight, the Bulls over the Pistons 114-108. Suns over the Heat 111-90. The Bucks took care of business against Atlanta in Milwaukee 124-115. Timberwolves over the Thunder at home 132-102. And the Magic on the road in New Orleans taking on the Pelicans. They took that one 108-102. Later tonight at 10:30, you got the Wizards taking on the Clippers, trying to stay above 500. So that should be an interesting matchup, to say the least. All right, open air time, ladies and gentlemen. What have we got to wrap this show up, Todd? Anything else burning in your mind in the world of basketball before we send this thing off to the meta for the world to enjoy?
My advice to everybody is just to make sure you got ESPN on at all times for the next 6 days, right?
Oh man, I'm burning up inside.
Because there's a whole mess of college basketball going on. You're going to get to see some of these. I think we've seen the two mid-majors, I think, that make the impact: Murray State and South Dakota State. Those are the two I think that actually bust up some brackets. Yeah. But take the time, watch the American Conference, watch the ACC, watch the Big East, watch the SEC, watch a couple of those games, and that's how you make I think historically for me, when I've won bracket challenges, I've watched a lot of college basketball, and I've picked out probably really like 8 to 10 teams that I just ride in through my bracket, right? They're the uncommon ones. But, like the year that Loyola Chicago made it all the way through, I had them all the way to the Sweet 16. Now, I didn't have them in the Elite Eight because who the fuck thinks that they're going to get there? But, I watched them in their conference championship game, and I saw them manhandle everybody. And up to leading to that, I watched 2 of their games, and I was like, all right, these guys are actually better than advertised. This is a team that could beat a big school. And sure enough, they did. So take your time. Make sure that if you are going to do a bracket, they're doing it through Rally Tile Sports.
That's Link right. Coming soon. Link coming soon. We will be putting that out there within the next, I don't know, call it. I could say within the next 18 hours, I think Todd will have this out for you, all to enjoy. And 50% of the proceeds are going directly to charity. We'll have all the information up, like I said, within the next 12 hours or so. And $20 entry, again, 50-50 split, unlimited amount of brackets that you can enter in this competition. If we exceed $500 total, not just going to the charity, if we exceed 500, we will expand it from a winner take all to giving a little kickback to second place. If we exceed 1,000, we'll get something out for third place as well. I think we can make that a lot of fun. So,
Ooh, man,
I'm just getting saucy.
that'd be great.
It would be amazing. It would be absolutely amazing. So, invite all of your friends to this as well. It's going to be open. The only way you qualify to take money is if we get money, though. That we're gonna obviously have that there. So, maybe we'll put a password on it. You get the password once you pay, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's gonna be a blast. So, I think that's. Let's see. We got one more thing popping up in the chat tonight. Don't want to miss that before we call it. Send those out. Me and British will definitely get in. That's from Corey. Corey, we really appreciate that, man. And tell everybody you know. Come on in, jump in, help us raise some money for a great cause. We really, really appreciate that. With that being said, I think it's time for us to call it a night, Todd. What do you think?
I think 5:15 is going to come around very quickly.
Yeah, morning will be here soon. So let's give a round of applause for everybody for joining in tonight. Thank you guys. For Todd, I'm Corey. This has been a Rally Towel Sports production of In the Post. We'll see you tomorrow for Line to Gain. Peace.